Dad Quiet Revenge.
By the time I saw that moving truck parked outside my auto shop that evening, I finally understood why my daughter-in-law Diane had called me at 6 a.m. with a frantic whisper. "Brooks, please don't go to the shop today." At 58, I've learned that worry sounds different from fear. Diane was terrified. "If you show up early," she said, her voice barely audible, "they'll finish before you get there." Then the line went dead. I'm Brooks Pierce, and I've been running Pierce Auto Repair here in Uniontown, Pennsylvania for 25 years. Built it from nothing after my discharge from the Army back in '89. Came home from my second tour overseas with a head full of mechanical knowledge from working on Humvees and a determination to never answer to anyone but myself again. My wife Joyce always said I had grease under my fingernails even when they were clean. She passed 3 years ago from cancer, and since then it's just been me, the shop, and our 2 kids. Well, I thought it was just us. The shop sits on a corner lot downtown, 3 bays with hydraulic lifts, an office upstairs, and a small apartment in back where Joyce and I lived those first few years while we saved money for the house. The building's nothing fancy red brick from the 1940s, big garage doors facing Main Street, a hand-painted sign that Joyce designed herself. But every tool, every piece of equipment, every customer relationship represents something we built together. Standing in my kitchen that morning, staring at the coffee pot Joyce bought at a church rummage sale 15 years ago, I kept thinking about the birthday dinner the night before. My son Wade had been asking strange questions about the business. Real specific stuff about ownership papers and succession planning. "Dad, you got everything in writing about the shop, right? Like legal documents?" He'd asked while we were eating cake in my office above the garage bays. Wade's 35 now, has a business degree from Penn State, and he's been through more failed ventures than I can count. First, it was a tech consulting firm that lasted 8 months, then some app development thing that burned through $30,000 of his savings. After that came a cryptocurrency investment scheme that made no sense to anyone with half a brain. Each time he'd borrowed money, made big promises about disrupting industries and leveraging synergies, then come crawling back when reality hit. But this time felt different. This time he seemed desperate, like a man with his back against the wall. I'd heard through Diane that his latest venture, some kind of logistics startup, had gone belly up, owing contractors and suppliers about $180,000. That's the kind of money that follows you around, especially when you've signed personal guarantees. The dinner had started normal enough. Wade brought his wife Diane, who works as a nurse over at Uniontown Hospital. Good woman, that one, level-headed, hard-working, treats people with respect. Always reminded me of Joyce in that way. Wade had also invited a couple people I didn't know well. Some guy named Heath Coleman, who he introduced as a business consultant, and a woman named Beverly Clark, who apparently did notary work on the side. We ate in my office upstairs, overlooking the shop floor through the big windows I'd installed, so Joyce could keep an eye on things while doing the books. The smell of motor oil and tire rubber drifted up from below, mixed with the scent of the birthday cake Diane had brought from the bakery. For a moment, it almost felt like old times when Joyce would insist on celebrating every birthday, anniversary, and holiday in that same office, surrounded by the business we'd built from scratch. After we finished eating, Wade started getting real interested in my filing system. "Dad, where do you keep the important papers? You know, the deed to the property, the business license, that kind of stuff?" I told him they were in the safe downstairs in my office. Nothing weird about that question, I figured. Natural thing for a son to know about his father's affairs. But then I caught him. I'd gone to get more coffee from the small kitchen Joyce had set up in the back corner of the upstairs office, and when I came back, Wade was behind my desk with the safe door open. The safe sits in the corner, a heavy Mosler from the 1960s that came with the building. Previous owner used it for cash deposits. I keep the important papers there, along with about $3,000 in emergency cash for payroll or urgent parts orders. Wade jumped back quick when he saw me. "Just looking for some aspirin, Dad," he said. "Diane's got a headache. Thing is, there's no aspirin in that safe. Never has been. Just business papers, insurance documents, the property deed, and that emergency cash. The safe's contents are organized the same way they've been for 15 years. Business license on top, insurance papers underneath, property deed in the manila envelope on the right side." Diane looked pale the rest of the night, kept glancing at Wade, then looking down at her hands folded in her lap. I could tell something was eating at her, but with company there, I didn't want to make a scene. Small towns, you know how it is. Word travels faster than gossip at a church social, and I've worked too hard building my reputation to let family drama mess it up. After everyone left, I went down to the office and double-checked the safe. Everything seemed in order, but something felt off. The papers weren't quite how I'd left them. The business deed was on top instead of underneath the insurance policies where I always keep it. Small thing, But when you've been organizing the same files for 25 years, you notice when someone's been messing with your system. That's when I decided to call my attorney, Kent Sullivan. Kent's been handling my legal stuff since Joyce and I bought the shop back in '98. Straight shooter, doesn't waste words or charge for unnecessary phone calls. Korean War veteran like my old man was, understands the value of keeping things simple and direct. Kent, I said when he picked up, I think Wade's planning something with the business. Can you check if anyone's been requesting information about Pierce Auto Repair? Give me an hour, Kent replied. I'll check the county records and see what's been happening. I spent that hour down in the shop going through my normal routine. Checked the oil on Mrs. Patterson's Buick in Bay 2, organized the tool cabinet that my apprentice Jake always leaves a mess, reviewed the work orders for the next day. Physical work helps me think, always has. My hands stayed busy while my mind worked through what I'd observed at dinner. Wade's questions hadn't been casual curiosity. They'd been specific, targeted, like someone preparing for a business presentation. The way he'd asked about the property deed, the succession planning documents, even the customer database. And Heath Coleman sitting there taking mental notes while pretending to enjoy Diane's cake. Kent called me back at 9:00 that evening. Brooks, someone tried to access your business registration records last night through the county website. The request came from your home IP address. I told him I hadn't touched a computer after the party. There's more, Kent continued. Someone scheduled a mobile notary appointment for tomorrow morning at your shop. Used your name, but the callback number doesn't match any phone you've given me. My blood went cold. In 25 years of running this business, I'd never needed a mobile notary to come to the shop. All our legal work gets handled at Kent's office downtown, same as it's always been. Kent, what exactly would someone need a notary for at my shop? Power of attorney documents, business transfer paperwork, the kind of stuff that would let someone else make decisions about your assets. Kent's voice got serious. Brooks, don't sign anything tomorrow without calling me first. And if anyone shows up claiming you requested them, you call the sheriff. That's when Diane's call started making sense. She wasn't warning me about an argument. She was warning me about something already in motion, something that would be finished before I could stop it if I walked in unprepared. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about Wade as a kid, back when Joyce was still alive and the shop was smaller. He'd come in after school sometimes, sit at the old desk in the corner while I worked on cars. Smart kid, always asking how things worked, why engines made certain sounds, what each tool was for. Joyce used to say he had his father's curiosity, but wanted to find easier ways to make a living. Maybe that should have been a warning sign. Wade never wanted to get his hands dirty, never wanted to spend years building something customer by customer. He was always looking for shortcuts, for ways to make quick money without putting in the slow, steady work that builds a real business. At 6 a.m. sharp, my phone rang. Diana's voice was barely a whisper. Brooks, please don't go to the shop today. What's happening, Diane? Wade's there with those men from last night. They have paperwork. If you show up early, they'll finish before you can stop them. Finish what? But she'd already hung up. I decided to play along with whatever game Wade was running, but on my terms. Called my shop foreman, Dale Richardson, and told him to keep an eye on things, but stay out of sight. Dale's been with me 15 years, worked his way up from changing oil to handling the complex computer diagnostics. Good man in a crisis keeps his mouth shut and his eyes open. I told him to park across the street at Murphy's Diner and call me if anything unusual happened. Then I drove toward the shop but parked at Murphy's myself, in a booth by the window where I could watch the shop entrance without being seen. Murphy's has been serving coffee and breakfast to the working folks of Uniontown since 1952. Same red vinyl booths, same cracked Formica tables. The owner, old Pete Murphy, doesn't ask questions when regular customers want to sit quietly and think. Sure enough, around 9:30 a.m., a moving truck pulled up in front of my shop. Not a big semi, just a medium-sized box truck with Coleman Moving Services painted on the side. Two men got out and started unloading hand trucks and moving blankets. Professional movers, by the look of them not day laborers, Wade might have picked up cheap. A few minutes later, Wade's Jeep pulled up behind the truck. Wade got out, followed by Heath Coleman and Beverly Clark. Wade had a clipboard in his hand and was pointing at different parts of the shop like he was giving them a tour of property he owned. I called Dale. You seeing this? Yeah, boss, they just went inside through the front door. Wade's got keys. Of course he had keys. I'd given him a set years ago, back when I thought he might eventually take an interest in the family business. Back when Joyce was still alive and we talked about keeping the shop in the family for another generation. Through the diner window, I watched Wade directing the movers like he owned the place. One of them came out carrying my diagnostic computer, the $8,000 machine I'd bought just 2 years ago to keep up with the newer car models. Another mover wheeled out my professional tool chest, the snap-on cabinet I'd been paying on for 3 years. This wasn't random theft. This was systematic, organized, and Wade knew exactly what to take. Customer files, expensive equipment, tools that would be hard to replace quickly. If someone wanted to put me out of business or force me to sell, this would be exactly how to do it. I called Kent. They're cleaning out my shop, I told him. My own son is stealing everything I've worked for. I'm on my way, Kent replied. Document everything but don't intervene alone. If this is what I think it is, we need to handle it carefully. I watched from Murphy's window as Wade handed one of the movers a clipboard. From where I sat, I could see him checking off items like he had some kind of inventory list. This wasn't random. This was planned, organized, and had probably been in the works for weeks. Every piece of equipment they loaded represented years of saving, careful purchasing decisions made with Joyce when money was tight and every dollar mattered. The diagnostic computer alone had taken me 6 months to justify buying. Joyce and I had sat at the same diner, going over the numbers on napkins, figuring out if we could afford the monthly payments. Brooks, she'd said, if this machine helps you fix the newer cars, it'll pay for itself in a year. She was right, as usual. That computer had brought in customers from 3 counties over. People who couldn't get their fancy imports diagnosed anywhere else. Around 1100, I saw Beverly Clark arrive in a white Honda Civic. She went into my office carrying a briefcase, the same professional-looking leather case she'd had at dinner. That's when I knew Wade wasn't just stealing equipment. He was planning to steal the entire business legally and permanently. My phone buzzed. Text message from Dale, they're in your office upstairs. Sounds like paperwork shuffling. I waited until Beverly came back out. Then I made my decision. 25 years of building this business, and I wasn't going to let it disappear while I sat in a diner drinking coffee. I paid Old Pete for my breakfast and walked across Main Street toward my own shop. The movers stopped when they saw me coming. One of them, a big guy with professional moving embroidered on his shirt, set down a box of customer files and looked at Wade nervously. Professional movers don't like complications, and the owner showing up unexpectedly was definitely a complication. Wade turned around slowly when he heard the mover stop working. For just a second, I saw surprise on his face before he covered it up with that fake smile he'd been using since high school whenever he got caught doing something he shouldn't. Dad, he said, forcing his voice to sound calm and reasonable. You're here earlier than I expected. I work here, I replied, looking around at my life's work being loaded into boxes. This is my shop. Wade gestured toward the boxes like nothing unusual was happening. We're just organizing some things for you. There's a lot of old paperwork cluttering up the office, and some of this equipment needs updating anyway. I looked at the diagnostic computer sitting on a dolly. That's not old equipment. I bought that machine 2 years ago. Well, it's outdated technology now. Heath's found us a better deal on a newer model. Wade pulled out a folder from his jacket. Actually, I was going to talk to you about this tonight, but since you're here, he handed me the folder. Beverly helped me draw up some papers to streamline the business operations. I opened the folder. Power of attorney documents, business transfer forms, and a medical assessment claiming I was showing signs of cognitive decline that interfered with my ability to run the business safely. The medical report was signed by a doctor I'd never heard of, describing symptoms I'd never exhibited, documenting appointments I'd never attended. Beverly stepped forward, looking less comfortable than she had the night before. Mr. Pierce Wade explained that you wanted to transfer business operations to him for health reasons. I just need you to sign these documents and we can make it all official. Health reasons, I asked, looking directly at my son. Wade's fake smile slipped just a bit. Dad, you've been forgetting things lately. Last week you couldn't remember where you put the keys to Mrs. Henderson's Chevy, and you've been getting confused about the customer scheduling system. I stared at Wade, remembering exactly what had happened with those keys. Mrs. Henderson's Chevy had come in for brake work, and Wade himself had moved the car to the back lot to make room for a delivery truck. The keys weren't lost. They were in Wade's pocket because he'd been the one driving the car. And the scheduling confusion had happened because Wade had been changing appointments on the computer system without telling me. I haven't been forgetting anything, I said quietly. That's when my phone rang. I answered it without looking at the caller ID, and Kent Sullivan's voice came through loud enough for everyone to hear. Brooks, is there a notary named Beverly Clark there with you? Beverly's face went white. Yes, that's me. Ims Clark, Kent continued, his voice taking on the tone he used in courtrooms. Do you have proper identification and credentials to witness these documents? And are you aware that witnessing false documents constitutes notary fraud under Pennsylvania state law? Beverly started fumbling in her purse. Wade said this was just a family matter, a formality to help organize things. Ims Clark, Kent's voice got stern. Notarizing documents based on false medical claims is a felony. And if anyone attempts to execute power of attorney documents obtained through fraud and deception, that's elder abuse, which carries serious criminal penalties. The movers looked at each other. The big guy set his box down completely and walked toward his truck. I could hear him on his radio, probably calling whoever had hired them to ask questions about the legitimacy of the job. Wade's confidence was cracking. "Dad, you're making this bigger than it needs to be. I'm just trying to help you transition into retirement. Help yourself to everything I've built." "You mean," I said. Heath Coleman, who had been standing quietly near the shop entrance, stepped forward. "Maybe we should postpone this discussion until everyone's had a chance to review the paperwork more carefully." "Good idea," said Kent's voice from my phone. "Especially since I'm pulling into the parking lot right now." Beverly packed up her briefcase quickly. "I think there's been some miscommunication here. I need to check with my supervising attorney." She was out the door and in her car before Wade could object. The movers weren't far behind. Turns out Wade had hired Coleman Moving Services under false pretenses, telling them I'd authorized the move but was too emotional about retirement to be present personally. When legitimate legal questions started being raised, they wanted nothing to do with the situation. Union guys, they knew the smell of a lawsuit when they encountered one. Kent Sullivan walked through my shop door 5 minutes later, carrying the same worn leather briefcase he'd had since the Carter administration. At 72, Kent moved slower than he used to, but his mind was sharp as a tack. He surveyed the scene, boxes scattered around, equipment sitting on dollies, Wade standing there looking like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. "Gentlemen," Kent said, nodding to Wade and Heath Coleman. Interesting way to spend a Tuesday morning. After the movers and Beverly left, it was just the four of us in my shop. Wade, Heath, Kent, and me standing among the half-packed remnants of 25 years of work. The smell of motor oil and tire rubber that had always comforted me now felt heavy, like the air before a storm. "You don't understand how much trouble I'm in," Wade finally said, his voice losing that fake confidence. "I owe serious money. $18,000 in business loans and personal guarantees. The bank's threatening to call everything in." "So you thought you'd steal my business to pay your debts?" I asked. "I thought you'd understand once I explained it properly. The shop's worth maybe $220,000. The property's worth another $150,000. If we liquidated everything and I paid off the debts, we could start fresh somewhere else. I stared at my son. This was never about we. This was about you taking everything I've worked for and leaving me with nothing." Wade's phone started buzzing. He looked at it and declined the call. "Those are creditors. I told them I'd have payment by tomorrow." That evening, after Kent had documented everything and Wade had slunk away with Heath Coleman, Diane came by my house. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. Dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking slightly as she sat at my kitchen table. "I need to tell you what really happened," she said. I poured her a cup of coffee and waited. "I found the papers 3 weeks ago," she began. "Wade had been planning this for months. He told me you were getting forgetful and that it would be better for everyone if he took over the business." She paused, wrapping her hands around the coffee mug like she was trying to get warm. "But then I overheard him on the phone with Heath Coleman. They weren't talking about helping you. They were talking about how to get you declared mentally incompetent so they could force the sale." Diane pulled out her phone. "I started recording his conversations after that. I didn't know what else to do." She played a recording from the week before. Wade's voice came through clear as day. "Once I get the power of attorney, we can have the whole thing wrapped up in 30 days. Dad won't know what hit him until it's too late to stop it." Heath's voice responded from the background. "What if he fights it? Then we use the incompetency angle. I've been documenting his memory lapses for months. Any judge will see he's not fit to run a business anymore." Diane stopped the recording. "There are more. Hours of them. Wade talking to potential buyers, discussing how to liquidate the shop's assets as fast as possible. I felt something I hadn't felt since Joyce died. Not just betrayal, but a kind of cold clarity about who Wade really was. This wasn't desperation making him do something stupid. This was calculated, planned, and meant to destroy not just my business, but my reputation in the community where I'd lived my entire adult life. Within a week, Wade filed a lawsuit challenging my mental capacity to run the business. His lawyer claimed I was showing early signs of dementia and that Wade was just trying to protect the family assets before I made decisions that would hurt everyone. The local newspaper ran a small item about it. In a town the size of Uniontown, that kind of news travels fast, but Kent was ready. He filed countersuits for attempted fraud and elder abuse, and he had Diane's recordings as evidence. "We're going to make this very public," Kent told me. Small-town justice works best when everyone knows what really happened. The preliminary hearing was held at the county courthouse downtown, the same building where Joyce and I had gotten our marriage license 32 years earlier. Wade sat across the courtroom with his attorney, a slick guy from Pittsburgh who probably charged more per hour than most of my customers made in a week. When Diane was called to testify, the courtroom got quiet. She walked to the front, sat down, and looked directly at Wade. "I love my husband," she said, "but I can't watch him destroy a good man who's been nothing but decent to our family." Kent played the first recording. Wade's voice filled the courtroom. "Dad's getting soft. Once I control the business, we can sell to that chain operation from Youngstown and be done with this small-town mechanic stuff forever." The judge stopped the recording and looked at Wade. "Is this your voice, Mr. Pierce?" Wade's expensive lawyer started to object, but Wade held up his hand. "Yes, Your Honor. But you have to understand the context. The context appears to be that you plan to defraud your father out of his livelihood while claiming he was mentally incompetent." The judge interrupted. The hearing lasted 2 hours. When it was over, Wade had lost everything. Restraining order, criminal referral to the district attorney, and a court finding that he had attempted to commit elder fraud. His remaining business relationships disappeared overnight. The bank called in his loans. Even Heath Coleman distanced himself, claiming he'd been misled about the whole situation. Diane filed for divorce a month later. She didn't ask for much from Wade, just wanted to be free of his debts and schemes. "I can't be married to someone who would do that to his own father." She told me, "The shop's doing better than ever now." Dale Richardson stepped up as assistant manager, and word spreads in small towns. People appreciate knowing their mechanic isn't going anywhere. I've been training Dale on the business side, thinking about making him a partner someday. Wade sends emails occasionally, usually asking for money or trying to explain why everything was justified. I delete them without reading past the first line. Sometimes I think about that 6 a.m. call from Diane. At the time, I only heard the warning. Now I understand it was the sound of someone choosing what's right over what's easy. Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who stands up for you when everything's falling apart. If someone you trust tries to steal from you, remember that real loyalty isn't about blood relations. It's about who chooses to do right when it costs them something. When family betrays you for money, the people who stand up for you become your true family, and sometimes that's worth more than anything they tried to take.